Antoine Semenyo is signing for Manchester City in the next coming weeks, with the reports saying that he has chosen them over any other team. Now, in this video, we're going to look at why Man City is spending £65 million to bring Semenyo in and why he could possibly win them the Premier League title. So let's get into it. Now, Antoine Semenyo is not really a surprise player for a lot of you. He's been ripping up the Premier League for over a year and a half now. His goal tally speaks for itself in that time, and his goals this season do as well, as not only there was a few penalties in there and a few free kicks, there was obviously a lot of open play goals, and he's been very much a catalyst for this Bournemouth side in the chaotic football that they play. And this is the thing, when you look at most Bournemouth games, when you look at most Semenyo goals, it comes in quite chaotic natures when Bournemouth are pressing and pushing up teams and trying to win the ball back, and then winning it into big spaces, counter-attacking quickly and running through. And Semenyo is one of the best carriers, best progressors from deep in these big spaces on the break, as not only is he quick, great dribbler and very, very strong, he's actually very decisive in these moments and always takes his time to probably get a shot away or pass it to a teammate, which sees him get so many goal contributions. Now, something else that Semenyo is obviously known for and everyone loves is the fact he is two-footed and can play brilliantly on the left and brilliantly on the right. There has been times where he's played on the left for seasons, and there's been times he's played on the right, kind of changing up all the time depending on who's fit in the team, but he's played on the left quite a bit this season, which I actually think suits Man City. Now, Man City's team obviously has been Foden on the left and Cherki on the right mostly, with Bernardo Silva sort of covering for Cherki as well. But we all know that Foden hasn't really played as this like left winger type of player. He's out there sometimes by his heat map, but you can see that he comes into the centre a lot and he receives it a lot into the pockets inside the channel, which is exactly what you want to get from Semenyo. And this is the thing, and why we have to look at the tactical board is because there's many moments against low blocks where I think he can be used really well. Now, something that you're going to see a lot with the Semenyo talk is how good he is against low blocks, because he hasn't played a huge amount for them for Bournemouth overall, which I think is a little bit of a worry. But what we know is that Pep Guardiola will optimize the things that Semenyo has, and I think in terms of strength, in terms of decisiveness, in terms of getting into the box and getting good shots away, he's probably the best winger that Manchester City have at the club. I think Doku's had a great season, but I don't think he's consistently scoring goals, because I still think there's some end product issues there, but I think he has developed a lot this year. Now, what you will see in moments like this quite a lot, this happened against West Ham actually, is that when you have Cherki on the wing in this sort of area, you have everyone sort of giving him that space. You know, you have Nunez, you have Reinders, you even have Haaland coming over to this side, where it kind of allows Cherki to be in that bigger gap on the right, because they've all kind of suffocated and closed West Ham in an area. As you can see in this situation, you have no one on the left side, and actually the left winger of the day is Phil Foden, who is sitting in beside the pockets, also giving up that backup player. You know, if Cherki crosses this ball in, it gets headed out, and then it comes to Foden. That's the sort of work you want to do and why you get him there. Now, I actually think this system works really, really well for a Semenyo, because I don't think he's great against low blocks, but I think you can get him really good areas here. So if we take Foden out, and I don't think Foden will be out of the team fully, I think you might see Foden actually come in for Silva and some changes happen there, but let's just do that for now and bring Semenyo in. Now, for instance, the two areas you want to get Semenyo in the most, I think, is the half spaces on both sides. I know he scores a lot of his goals actually from this sort of centre period, and actually if you look at his shot map, a lot of them are very central strikes, and I do think there's a possibility of getting him them strikes, but I think when City play against a lot of low blocks and sort of teams that are willing to sit deep, that is much harder to do, and I think there has to be an acceptance that he's going to have less shots from this area and more on these half spaces, which he is equally as good at as well, so it's not too big of a deal. Now, maybe in this situation, you would want to switch Semenyo and Reinders a little bit to get Semenyo in their more attacking positions. I don't mind that. That is definitely something you can do. But I really think if you give Semenyo this sort of space here and you say to Cherki, you know, you create, you cross the ball into Haaland, who's going to try and win the header. I really think if Haaland pushes this defender back like this, if Cherki gets a cross in and obviously everyone starts pushing back, Semenyo is a very, very smart player who can easily sneak in to get these second balls. I also think just giving Semenyo a huge amount of space will be helpful. I think that maybe in these areas he can be kind of effective. I don't think out wide like this he's going to be brilliant. However, it obviously is a different situation, because I think if the ball is out wide in here and you say all the players come across and they've got a cover for Semenyo in that way, I think that his crossing stats and his passing stats, if you look at them, quite underrated and are actually okay. And I do think he can definitely find a ball to Haaland, who is obviously a target man. You don't even need to do a perfect ball to find Haaland. He finds a way to get to everything. But I also think one of the big ways that he is going to be used for this team, if I just put the players back, is that when Reinders, I actually think might come out of the team a little bit, because if you look at Semenyo's work rate, you look at his defensive numbers, he works tirelessly hard off the ball for a very hard system. So I think if Man City want to kind of revert to a sitting deeper sometimes when teams press them or teams try to get at them, I think that could absolutely work, and they could give the ball up a little bit. And then I think they can counter-attack to not only make Semenyo better, but to give that work rate in a block. And I actually think Semenyo in a block is much better than Reinders. But like we said, if we keep Semenyo in for Reinders, let's say, and Semenyo is in this half channel next to Cherki, so you have Cherki out wide and you have Semenyo always inside of him, I think that could work, because they can rotate, they definitely can, and Semenyo can go out wide, but these two players have absolutely no angle bias. They basically can use both feet easily each side. And I just think these situations, you don't necessarily for City want to get Semenyo on the ball. If you look at his touches, you look at how much he actually plays in these areas, he's not someone that's going to touch the ball loads and, you know, have all these attacking touches like a lot of these City players are. So you want to make him this sort of clinical guy in and around the box, and I think that can happen, and very much like Haaland in a way. So I think there's definitely moments where Cherki or whoever gets the ball down these situations will try and get players to come towards them, try and create space, and they might almost try and cross the ball into Haaland every time. But Semenyo is someone that if the ball bounces to him in the box, he is so good at quickly shooting. You look at the post-shot quick stats that he has in the Premier League, it's some of the best. As soon as he gets that ball into his feet, he smashes it, and his brilliant finishing is there for everyone to see. And there's also ways, look, that he can cover for Haaland. I think for most top 6 teams, a lot of people have been talking about how he makes more sense to be a striker. I agree with that. I think in a 2-man up front striker system with Haaland, he would be fantastic if you want to kind of give up that midfield pressure. Maybe that's something Pep does in certain game states. But I also think in games where you don't want to play Haaland, I think Semenyo coming in is a great option. And apparently they don't really seem the most fond of Marmoush, Man City. So Semenyo might be a little bit of a better bridge and a gap, at least because he brings that physical level that you need that I don't think Marmoush particularly has. And look, sometimes you just want to get a player that scores a lot of goals and gets in the right positions, which I think Man City are bringing. He's at a key age, and I think for the price, it makes sense given it will be in January. Now, there's obviously some issues. Like we said, the mid to low block problems are there. His ability in really tight spaces to be dominant all the time are quite bad sometimes, and he does need a little bit of that space, but if you can manufacture that for him, then it's fine. And Man City, I still think, have the potential to be a more transitional team, although it's a little bit harder with Donnarumma in goal. I still think there's some potential there, and I think just getting 2-footers that are great anyway. And I think some underrated part about this is that Man City's distribution from Donnarumma and the defenders isn't brilliant. They don't really go as long as I thought they would until obviously Edison left. But I think that because he's so good in the air, he's so good from dueling Semenyo, that you can play the ball directly into him on the wing. This is something that even if he played up front, I would imagine he would move to the wing positions to sort of hit a fullback where he's going to win the duels a lot more than a centre back. And you can play directly into him. You can bring the ball down, and you could almost have situations where it's going to be a 3-on-3, a 2-on-2, which is where you want Man City to be, because you know that Haaland, Semenyo, these players aren't going to make the wrong decisions when you've got that big space. And if Man City can play long over the press sometimes against bigger opponents, that is going to be a good way of getting at them, and something like a plan B if things aren't working in terms of pressure and teams down. Now, yes, again, like I said, I do think there is some issues. I think playing him as his natural like left winger in their games will be a bit of a weird choice. I think he actually makes more sense inside of Cherki if you want to play him like that, but then that gives a lot of attack and threat, because even if he works hard defensively, it's very different to work hard defensively and be very successful at it, and it will leave a lot on people like Nico Gonzalez, people like Phil Foden to kind of cover for these players. And the big issue is that his goals might not be consistent. His XG overperformance has been quite a lot this season, but even last season was quite a lot, and actually throughout his career he's overperformed XG pretty decent amount. Now you can say this is a great finisher, which you can definitely put this down to, but this also might not be consistent forever. He might go to a better club, have less shots, not be the main man, and then not be as clinical, which is something that has to be considered between these teams. And I will say 65 million for Man City might not be a lot of money, but it is a lot of money in general. This is a player for that amount of money that in January that you kind of want to win you the league. You spend that money to win the league over other teams like Arsenal. So if you don't, if things happen in the wrong way, if he isn't effective, like someone like Marmoush was good when he came in, but hasn't necessarily been effective over the last 6 months, will you be in a situation where you're buying another winger in a few months' time, which is not really where you want to be if you're City in the future. So I wouldn't say it's a slam dunk, but I would say from City's perspective, I'd probably trust Pep to make the right decisions with this player rather than a Chelsea or United or a Tottenham, who I don't think would have the same level and make him actually this good. So I think at least for him, it makes sense to go to City, and it makes sense for City to sign him. Now let me know in the comments what you guys think about Antoine Semenyo. Are you excited? Are you happy? And please like and subscribe for daily football analysis on your favourite teams and players. Thank you guys. See you in the next one.